All right, guys, we're back with another episode. Today I've got Phil Moreland here. And Phil, I want to give you a compliment. I've seen you online for probably about over a year now. And one thing I will say is that whenever I ask people if they know you, it's super consistent. It is Phil is the wholesaler. So for people out there that don't know, how did you even get into this thing called wholesaling? And what is it if someone doesn't know what wholesaling is?
Yeah, so wholesaling basically is you're basically middlemaning deals. So I'm the gap between sellers that need to sell their house and investors that are looking to buy investment properties, whether they're flipping, rentals, commercial properties. I'm the gap between that.
And what even got you in that? Like, how do you hear about that?
So basically, when I got out of college, I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I knew I did not want to use my degree. So my first business was a athletic performance training business. So I was training athletes and regular people that are just looking to get in shape. It went well, but I knew I wanted to do something bigger. I wanted to do something that had bigger stakes. I could take bigger risks, make bigger checks, and work less. Because training is cool. I loved it because I played football in college, but having to do that every single day, I'm getting exhausted.
And at a certain point, you're trading hours.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
always
trading
gonna be
hours. People not showing up for sessions, people coming late. I'm exhausted, and I got to wake up in the morning and do the same thing. Like I said, it was a good experience, but I needed to do something bigger. So I literally went on YouTube and I looked up how to make money in real estate with no money. Because at the same time, I didn't have much of any money at the time. I actually had negative money
Yeah.
at that time. I always say I started my business off with negative $300.
Okay, explain that to people out there.
Yeah, so it was a time where I'm going through whatever I'm going through. I look at my bank account and I had negative $300. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I about to do? But that was a wake up call for me. I'm like, I need to do something where I don't have to worry about this anymore. Like, I just want to because I always wanted to make money. I'm like, but if I got negative $300 right now and I'm just struggling to make $20 here, $30 here, I'm like, I need to do something bigger. I knew I was capable. Everything I put my mind to, I always go 100% into it, and I always strive to be successful at it. But I needed to just do something bigger.
And so why did you not like fall back on that college degree? Because you said you finished college.
Mm-hmm.
What was your degree in?
I originally went to school for engineering, but I ended up getting my math degree because halfway through, once I was in engineering school, I'm just like, I don't want to do this. Like I'm looking around the room. I'm like, everybody here is super smart, but nobody is like me. Like it's a lot of people that like they may be super smart, but they don't know how to talk to anybody. Like they're super closed off. Like they're just super in the books. And that's cool, but I like to talk to people. I like to move around. I want to do something that I enjoy versus doing something just because we think it makes money. Right.
So do you have a lot of people at this time? So you got negative 300 in the account. You do have your degree. Were there a lot of people telling you, hey, just go get a job for a little bit, like you'll figure it out? Or were there a lot of people pushing you like, hey, take this risk?
Nobody was pushing me to take that risk. I was the only one in my mind that knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, right? Everybody else, all we see is people getting jobs. So, of course, like my family telling me like, get a job here, whatever, which is cool. Like I did have like jobs at the time. They just weren't anything special.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew in my mind that what I wanted to do. I knew I always wanted to make money. I wanted to change my family legacy. I wanted to be able to have freedom. That was the main thing. I want freedom. To me, at the time, money meant freedom, but I realized as I was building myself up that freedom meant time, freedom meant resources, freedom meant money as well. It's a lot of things that come together that give you that freedom. So me knowing that I wanted freedom, I'm like, a job is not going to give me freedom because
It might give you money, but it's not giving you freedom.
Yeah, it could give me money, but it's not going to give me any freedom. And then that was another thing too in engineering school. I'm talking to engineers. They like, yeah, I make 120 a year, but I work 70 hours a week. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. Like,
Yeah, my son thinks I'm his brother or something. You know,
Yeah,
they have
like-
no idea who their family is, and they're yeah, because I see it. Like one of my best friends, he works at Tesla, and I remember I went out to Nevada to see them, and I stayed, I think, from a Monday through Monday, and I only think Sunday afternoon people weren't working, and they were like, "Oh, well, we'll just go in from 9 to 12." I'm like, "It's a Sunday," but it's normal. They're expected to do that because in that engineering world, you know, everyone wants to be a better engineer, but no one's really questioning like, is this good for my life path?
Right.
It's more of just like, is this going to keep my job?
Right. And I never wanted to be in that situation. I don't like asking people for stuff. I don't want to ask to take vacations. I don't want to ask to go to the bathroom. I don't want to ask for anything. I want freedom also means for me that I can wake up and do whatever I want to do.
Whether it's working hard or not working at all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, so you're bringing it back, me deciding to be an entrepreneur versus getting a job. I just wanted to take that risk on myself. I learned a lot through college, not from my degree, but from books I was reading, programs I was taking. I learned entrepreneurship on my own, and with my friend Andrew Kopp. Shout out to Andrew. He's the one that first got my mind thinking about entrepreneurship.
I was gonna ask, was it like music, a movie, like what actually turned your brain?
It was Andrew. So in football, in college especially, I was a good football player because I worked hard. I studied every aspect of the game. I made sure that there was I played corner, so every aspect of being a corner, I wanted to check that box off, and I always made sure I was dialed in on it. So Andrew saw how hard I worked in the game, and I worked hard in school. Like, even though I didn't like what I was doing, I was still doing well in school. Andrew saw that, and he was like, "What do you want to do when you graduate?" and all this other stuff. I probably said I wanted to be an engineer at the time, and he was like, "Oh, check out this program or check out this book." And he had programs from a guy named Ty Lopez.
Yep.
And he had a program called the 67 Steps, and it was all mindset stuff. Right. So me taking that course, I never knew it was courses like that just out in the world at the time.
Because all you know is engineering classes.
Yeah, all I know
is
regular
class.
school. Yeah, all I know is like traditional school. I don't know there's things that will teach you things that none of these schools will teach you at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So taking that 67 steps, that honestly changed my life because I saw the world bigger. Right. I stopped thinking like, oh, I could just get this job and do this and do that. I started thinking like, I could build a business. I could build wealth. I could have a lot of money versus just having money. I want to have a lot of money, assets, resources, and all that. But it starts with your mindset. If you don't think you can do it, then you're not going to do it. And if
100%,
if you have bad habits, you're really not going to do it. Like you can think you're going to do it, but if your habits don't match that, then you're not going to end up doing it. It's all going to drive you to the same place till you realize you have to change your habits in order to change your outcome in your situation.
How did you listen to that voice in your head? Because I think even for me too, I remember it was probably early college where I started having this thought of like, oh, I'm going to be a business owner. And I remember I would like talk to some of my buddies about it, and they didn't feel that way. They're like, no, man, like I want this job at this company. So when you started having that, let's say, gear shift in your head where it's like, I want to not just make some money, I want to make a lot of money and be a business owner. Did you have to kind of like keep that to yourself for a little bit, or how did you go about then changing your circle? Because I know that's a huge part of this too.
That's a great question. So I definitely had to stay to myself for a good amount of that time because no one around me except my friend Andrew was thinking about entrepreneurship. So he was honestly the only person I would talk to about it. And then I would say some stuff to my friends back at home because I went to school in Pittsburgh. So I would say some things to my friends back at home in Cleveland, but everybody just partying and all that. So we're not focused on it. We just throwing it out there.
And how do people react to that? Because I always think back to when I first was going to do this, and you think everyone's going to think like you. Did you have a few of those moments where you told people and they were just
I told my parents, like my mom, she always supports me through everything. But I told my dad, like, I want to drop out of engineering school and become an entrepreneur. He was like, what are you doing? Like, but I understand because the older generation, all they know is get a degree and get a job. So I completely understand. But at the same time, that goes back to you believing in yourself. Nobody is going to see that vision except you. Like you have to see it for yourself and know that you can accomplish it. And you have to know that you're going to put in the work to get there. Like I've always been committed to doing the work. So I knew I was going to do it.
And for like a lot of people watching, I remember I went through a similar struggle where like I told my mom I was starting a business, and I mean, I could feel the fear through the phone. She was scared shitless. But if there's anything I learned through that process, it's like if you're, let's say, I'm speaking to young men only, but like if you're a young male and you're starting a business, like your mom's not going to be your business advisor. Like your mom wants to know, how was your day? Are you doing all right? And like, is your life good? Because anything outside of that, I notice a lot of guys my age do that. They try to talk their parents into the vision, but you got to remember, they didn't take that risk for a reason. So for you to then go try to convince them.
And that's why I started implementing a rule. Like I don't really talk about anything until I've done it already. Like that's what I did with my friends, my parents, all the people around me. Like you can't, cause I'm not going to let you talk me out of it, especially with people I care about. Like, of course I love my family. I love my friends. But if they start telling me all these things that could happen, you could get sued or this can happen. Or what if you don't close a deal or whatever? I don't need to hear that. Like
Yeah.
I need my surroundings to be filled with positivity, advice, guidance, wisdom. I don't need it to be filled with anything negative. So I'm not gonna tell you anything until I've done it. So now I can go to you like, oh, look what I did. Versus, oh, I'm trying to do this just so you can talk it down. I'm just gonna tell you this is what I've done, and now I'll tell you what I'm about to do because
Yeah.
I've already proved the concept.
And
So
do you think a lot of people get into that trap when they first start, where they almost want the, let's call it social recognition more than the actual task?
yes, I see that a lot, especially with people trying to get into real estate. Like they'll start the worst thing you can do is start asking all your peers that are not in real estate about getting into real estate. Like that's the worst thing you can do because everybody's just gonna tell you how bad their experience has been. You're
Yeah.
gonna hear a lot of people say a furnace went out and I had to pay for it. Oh, I had a roof leak and I had to pay $8,000 for my roof. Okay, but then you go talk to some investors and they'll tell you, make sure you have reserves for this. Make sure when you buy a house, you fix it up all the way so you don't have to worry about any of these things for the next 10 years. Like it's a different perspective that you're going to get from somebody experienced and successful in that versus somebody that has no experience or minimal experience that haven't seen any success.
And it's also like the emotion that people attach to it, right? You know, like one for me, people always ask is like, well, what happens if you lose a client or what happens if you mess up a video? And it's like, that will happen. It's going to happen over and over again. It's more of how you handle it. Because even for you, you know, you could get scared and be like, oh, I'm going to flip a house or I'm going to wholesale a deal. And there are a million things that could go wrong. But I'm guessing as you've learned, it's not about if they go wrong. It's more of like, what do you do now that it went
Exactly.
wrong, right?
That's experience is going to be your best teacher, and wisdom is going to help guide you through these experiences. So, I'm one of the reasons I'm so successful in my own right now is because I listen to people that are more wise than me and people that are more experienced than me, so they can help guide me. But at the same time, I'm going to make sure I put in the work to go through that experience, and I'm going to mess up. Like everything I've been through in my life thus far, I've messed up countless time. Everything I've ever been good at, I've messed up a million times. But it's how you can handle the lows, which is going to determine where you're going. If you can't, everybody can handle the highs. You
And
close,
no one's complaining about a 10K paycheck.
yeah, like you close a $20,000-$30,000 deal. Like your life is good. You close 5 deals this month. It's great. But what about a month where you close 0 deals? Like what about somebody trying to pull out of a deal 2 days before closing? What about a buyer saying that he's going to buy it, but then just fooled you, and now he can't even close. He's not even a real investor. How are you going to handle those situations when they come? And you can either let them allow you to fold, and you might end up quitting the business, or you'll say, all right, how can I prevent this from happening again?
Do you think being a football player gave you a skill set to, let's say, not quit? Like one of the things I think I see with too many business owners is, I don't know, define maybe just not showing enough love to a business, but obviously you've had probably hard things happen time and time again. Like what goes through your head when you're deciding like, I shouldn't quit? Like, how do you talk yourself through that?
That's a great question. So, like I said, in football, I play corner. So in corner, you're one-on-one with a receiver every single play. So one of the biggest things that my coaches taught me is to have a short memory when it comes to every single play, whether it was good or bad. And that, now that I'm thinking about it, I really carried that throughout my life because you're going to get scored on. Somebody's going to catch a pass on you. Somebody's going to run you over. All these things are going to happen. But you can literally look at it and mope about it, and then you will have the whole rest of your game will be you getting scored on, ran over, and passes caught on you. Or you can have a short memory, look at it, and be like, all right, I should have got on my break faster on that one. Or I should have read the play better. All right, let me go to the next play. Now you can make 10 plays where you don't even remember what happened when you got scored on.
Yeah.
So having that habit and that mindset helped me throughout my whole life, not even business. Just having a short memory when it comes to things that happen, but not having a short memory meaning I forget about it, but meaning I analyze it, think about what I did right, what I did wrong, and then I move on to the next thing.
And do you think that's another side of being a business owner most don't think about is just how many different things you've got to process in your thoughts every day? Like for you, obviously, you're not only just dealing with the person who is usually probably financially distressed and needing to sell their home. So you go from this, let's call it super emotional conversation where you're trying to fix it. Then you're talking to an investor on the other side. So you're going from like emotion to analytical brain, right? Mm-hmm. How hard is that when you're first starting out?
When you're first starting out, it's definitely a challenge because, like you said, there's 2 different mindsets. One is I have to be empathetic and feel your situation. The other one is I have to be firm and, for lack of a better term, stand on business. Like, because buyers and sellers will try to get you out your hookup, but you have to just stand firm. So, and both sides actually blend together. Like, buyers, even though we don't think buyers are emotional, buyers can get very emotional.
Yeah.
And even though we think sellers aren't analytical at all, sellers can get very analytical. So even though it's a challenge at first, you realize there's a cohesiveness throughout both sides of the business. Right? You can, even though buyers are going to be more analytical, they're also emotional. And even though sellers would be more emotional, they're also analytical. So you want to be able to have a balance of both and know when to weave out of each thing to make you the best salesman, the best closer, and the best business owner.
Do you remember your first deal?
Yes, I remember my first deal.
Talk me through that. What was going through your head as it started, and then when you actually saw that check?
Man, so my first deal is 2024 now, so it had to be like 2018. I was probably 4 months into wholesaling. The whole 4 months, I probably had 6-7 deals under contract before I closed my first deal. So people don't really talk about that at all. Like, when you're starting out, you're not gonna be good at pricing deals. Like, you're just not, because you don't have the experience. So I had 6-7 deals under contract before I actually closed one. But that's the good thing about wholesaling, is there's no risk involved, right? As long as you get out of the deal in time, even if you don't get out of the deal in time, you're not really risking anything at all. Maybe a $100 deposit, but
Like earnest money, if anything.
yeah, earnest money, if anything. But if you get out of the deal in time, you don't have to put any money down. So it was probably my 6th or 7th deal I got under contract. It was 2 houses right next to each other. I got the deal from Driving for Dollars, which is when you drive around and find physically distressed properties, take their address down, look up the owner, and call them. So that owner, it was 2 houses right next to each other. The guy had to be like 80-something years old. He said him and his son were working on these houses, but then his son moved to California, and he was working on them by himself, but he's 80 years old, so he can't.
Yeah.
So I end up negotiating a price of like $22,000 for both houses together. You should have seen me, like, taking out the contract. I'm nervous, like, because I feel like this is a deal. Like, I'm shaking giving him the contract and having him sign. He's asking me questions that I don't know. So that's another thing. People are like, oh, what if they ask this? What if they ask this? So what? Just try to do your best.
You're not going to know. Even if you
Yeah.
studied, do you think you would have known?
Yeah, no. Because he's asking me questions I've never heard before. Like, this is the experience that's going to teach you. Now I know what to say in those situations. But in that time, I didn't know. I either made up something or just told him I didn't know at the time. But he ended up signing, so we had both houses under contract for $22,000. I didn't have any buyers at the time, because that's another thing. When you're starting off a wholesaling, your buyers list isn't going to be as big as it should. I had 10 buyers, and I thought that was a big buyers list.
And how did you meet those buyers?
Going to real estate investor meetings. So shaking a lot of hands, meeting people. And that's how I gained respect in the industry, because I was always showing up. Like, I'm always showing up. I'm always meeting people, telling them exactly what I'm doing, and I'm bringing deals. Even though they weren't good deals at first,
They were deals.
I'm bringing deals to you constantly. So even though I'm a newbie, you see that I'm dedicated to this, and I plan on being in this for a while.
So this is what, year 6 for you?
Yes.
Okay, so we were talking about this on the phone. I think it was about a month ago. Why did you not go shiny object syndrome and just start veering out into every way to make money in real estate? Like, why did you see it was important to focus on what you're already doing?
Because I heard that a lot from mentors and just people I look up to. That you want to master one thing before you branch off. Because it was a lot of times where I could have started flipping and rentals and trying this marketing strategy and this marketing strategy and doing all this stuff. But I've experienced that before when I've tried to do a business. Because actually, before I started wholesaling, I was trying to do Amazon drop shipping, and then what's it called, garage sale hacking, and all type of stuff.
Gary Vee gotcha.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he gets us
Well,
all.
shout out to Gary Vee. He definitely helped me a lot. But at the same time, I wasn't mastering anything. So once I heard wholesaling, I'm like, I know I want to be in real estate, because all wealthy people are in real estate. This is something that you can get in with no money. I have no money, so this is perfect for me. And I see it as something that I can grow and scale.
Yeah.
Right. So I always have my mindset of I want to scale. But in order to scale, you have to master one thing. You can't scale. People think scaling is, all right, I'm going to start my wholesaling business and my flipping and my marketing company and this at the same time. Scaling is, I grow my wholesaling business or whatever medium you pick. I could be flipping, rentals, or whatever. I grow that business to where it's dialed in, down pack. I have systems and processes in place. I got employees. I have everything locked in. Now I start my flipping. Now I start my rentals. Now I build this because it's much easier to do that when you have your cash cow making money and you're going to learn throughout building that cash cow versus trying to do 4 things at once. Now you've mastered nothing. You're just running around trying to get money however you can versus I know I'm going to get money from wholesaling.
Yeah.
So now I can go focus on other things because wholesaling we figured that out already. We're still constantly improving, constantly evolving. But since I've mastered this, I can now easily branch off because I have everything in place where I don't have to worry about.
And it's not all just dependent on Phil anymore, right?
Right. We have 6 employees now, 5 full-time and 1, she's like a data manager.
Yeah.
But yeah, 6 people that count on me to keep the business going.
Is it a different motivation? Because like for me personally, I think I ran my company, or I'll call it freelancing, for like a year and a half where it was just me. Then I remember I brought my girlfriend in. So now there was like this second layer where you're not just making decisions for Alex, you're now making decisions for more than Alex. Like, do you think you as Phil evolved solely by having other people count on you?
Yes. And that's one of the reasons why I've been able to build my business to where it's at now because I've been in the game for 6 years. I've closed a lot of deals. I could have bought a fancy car a long time ago. I could have bought a big house a long time ago. I could have taken more extravagant vacations because I do take vacations. But I could have done a lot of things before. But instead of saying I want to get this fly car and all this jewelry, I'm like, I want to be a millionaire before I really dial in on all these things. So let me invest in myself and invest in my business. Like hiring employees is investing in your business because you have to pay these people salaries.
Yeah.
So I made sure I invested in myself constantly through mentorships, programs, going to meetings, being in the right rooms, learning from the right people, and then taking that same money and investing in my business. I could have spent a lot of money in other places, but I've spent hundreds of thousands between my business and my brain, which would be mentorships, programs, and all that. And that's what's helped me to be able to scale how I have because instead of shiny object syndrome, it can be more than just starting 10 different businesses. It can be, I can afford this car, so I'm about to go buy it.
Yeah.
Because I could have did that a long time ago. But instead, I'm like, instead of buying this car, let me add a transaction coordinator so I don't have to worry about the BS that goes on in between the transactions. I can get more time to myself. So now my business is based off of I want time and freedom. Like I said in the beginning, I want freedom. So in order to have freedom and make money, you have to have staff.
Yeah.
Like you have to have staff. You got to have somebody else doing it for you.
And do you think that that's what kills a lot of people who maybe don't get into business for the right reasons? Like they first start making money and instead of, like you said, the coaching program, maybe it's a software, they immediately see like, how can I get something that makes it look like I'm making more money than I am? Because I think that's like a quick illusion, especially with all the like, ad gurus, right? Where it's like whip up in the Lambo and then you realize like, oh, they rented that for 15 minutes.
Yeah, like you don't realize, because I'm not going to say that I don't want nice things. I do like nice things and I have a couple nice things, but I focus on, when I look at how much money it really costs to afford this stuff, like everybody thinks they can afford stuff. Just because you got enough money does not mean you can afford it.
Or even worse, when someone goes, oh, I'm approved to finance this thing.
Yeah, like you can having money and decent credit can get you approved for a lot of things that you cannot afford.
I remember when I was like 7 or 8, my dad, he worked high W-2 job. He was a programmer and he was like trying to teach us a lesson about credit or something like that. And he's like, well, I actually could get approved to like buy an airplane right now, but I'm not going to do it. And me and my sister are like, why wouldn't you do it? But now as an adult, you realize like just because that you can get financed for something doesn't mean that's the right choice.
Right. And now the way I look at my life and expenses and everything, I want to be prepared for the bad months. Mm-hmm. Because in business, you're going to have great months, you're going to have good months, and you're going to have bad months. Yeah. If I can afford this on a bad month, then I can afford it. If it takes me to have good months all 12 months out of the year, I cannot afford this because I'm not trying to be in a bind.
Yeah.
I got people to take care of. I got to make sure I can pay my employees. I got to make sure everything is running smoothly and everybody's happy. So instead of trying to buy myself some stuff, I'm going to invest into these people and into my mind so I can make sure everything is taken care of. We got enough deals, enough assets, enough cash, enough systems and employees to make everything work. So now I can go enjoy the fruits of my labor because everything is set.
And they're actually your fruits.
Yes.
Like at that point, it's something you actually earned. It's not a kind of earned or I hope I get this.
Yeah. And that's the very fulfilling part about business. And I think that's the habit that I built throughout my life. When I work hard at something and see the result, that's what like drives me more. I remember the first time that happened was I was in middle school, and then I've always been good at math naturally because my mom is good at math and she always just made me count all the time. But I had like a C minus or D plus in my math class in middle school. It was literally just because I was acting a fool in class. Because I was in middle school, I was a class clown. I dialed down in high school, but in middle school, I was just a clown with good grades.
Do you think you were bored?
That's what it was. I was bored in all my classes because like it's cool, but I want to enjoy my life. I like moving around and having fun. Like if it's too boring in here, I'm about to crack a joke and make everybody laugh.
Yeah.
So my dad saw that grade and he was like, he basically made me go to the teacher after school every single day until my grade was like a B or something. And him making me do that, one, I built a better relationship with the teacher, so I stopped clowning in her class as much because I understand.
You're like, I'm making this hard for her.
Yeah, I understand her a little bit more. But two, I learned so much from staying after class and just focusing in on these problems that it turned my grade all the way around. I think I ended up getting an A in that class, and that was very fulfilling for me. So it clicked in my head. I'm like, oh, if I focus and work hard at something, I can get good results.
What do you think has been the results for mental work? Because I think not a lot of people have shared enough of that on this podcast. But one of the things I think you and I quickly connected over when we were talking is like how to think about things can determine what your actions will be. So what are the investments you've made? Maybe not in like systems or the tactical real estate side, but what are investments you've made in Phil's brain?
That's a good question. So one of the first results you can see is just being able to handle bad situations better. Because it's life. We all go through bad personal situations, financial situations. You might not be right spiritually. You might not be right in any type of way. But if you can handle the bad better, not saying that you're going to handle it perfect because we all have emotions and we all have a brain. So, but if you can handle it better without affecting the whole rest of your day or the rest of your life, that's one result that you can see. And another thing I make sure I do, is just do things that I enjoy.
Okay.
Right. So it was a point in time where I was working so hard at business when I first had my training business. And in the beginning, when I had my wholesaling business, I worked so hard, I didn't do anything. Like I was just locked in because like I said, when I work hard, I get good results. But I was working almost too hard, like to the point where I still got good results business wise, but at the same time, I wasn't happy at all. Like I felt like, it took me back to one of the 67 steps that Ty Lopez taught in that program was the balance between health, wealth, love, and happiness. You can work your ass off and do all this stuff, but if you're not enjoying it throughout that time, what's the point, right? I don't want to be one of those people that grinded out for 20 years. I'm a multimillionaire, but I miss my son growing up. I haven't done anything. I'm old now, so I can't play any athletic. I can't do any athletic activities.
Yeah.
I can't enjoy my life. I didn't buy this stuff that I wanted or take this trip that I wanted. I don't want to be one of those people. I want to enjoy the journey. And what I've learned is the journey is the dream. I've always dreamt of having this car or going on this vacation or seeing this place or living this life. But I learned that you can do those things in moderation until you're really ready. But at the same time, if you wait, same as working a job. Oh, work until you retire and then you can live this life.
Or I'll start business when I'm 40.
Right. I'll start my business when I do this. I'll start this when I do this. That's never going to happen. You have to do, everything is in the now. Like I have to do things now. If I don't do it now, it's not going to happen because now is the only thing that's real. So if you can put in the work now and do what you need to do now to set yourself up, make yourself happy, move yourself forward, learn something, that's all that matters. Too many people get tied up in either the past or the future that isn't real.
And they're completely missing what they could do.
Yeah, you're missing what's going on right now. Like, I could get caught up on all the deals that I lost, all the L's I've taken, all the things I thought I could have did or could have had, that's cool. But what are all the things that did go well and I did do good at and I did learn from? So now what am I going to do with that information? You can take all that past information and be sad about it, or you can take that past information, do something with it now to better your life and better your situation.
Yeah, I forget what song it is, and I'm going to shout out Katie because she was playing it the other day, but it was a song lyric where it was like, everything you've always been looking for is already looking at you. And I think like a lot of business owners forget because we're always like, oh, I could be doing this more. I could have this division of my company. But like for Phil back in 2018, like what would he think about your team and where you're at right now?
That's funny. I literally just thought about that the other day because that's another part of being right mentally. You have to celebrate the small wins. Like you have to celebrate the small wins and look back and look at where you've come. Like 2018 Phil, I was broke, living on Eddie Road. I didn't have anything at all. And I just had a dream of building a business, closing deals, making money, all these things. And then when I look now, I'm literally doing all the things that I wanted to do. Like I had that vision, but the important thing was to stick to the vision and the plan and being confident that I can get it done. Like if somebody asked me, like, did you know you were going to be here? I knew I was going to be here. It could be arrogance. It could be me just being confident. I knew I was going to be here because I knew I was going to do what it took to get here.
If there's someone starting their business right now and maybe they've had that thought in their head, or when they journal at night, they think that, how would you tell them that that's not delusion, that that's actually something they need to hold on to?
Like I said, nobody's going to believe in you like yourself. Like you have to know that you can do it. Like, and if somebody's done it before, it can be done. That's another rule I live by. That's why I like watching interviews of successful people or people I look up to. Like they've done it already. They probably came from a worse situation than you and did more than you couldn't imagine. So if they've done that, you can do it. You just have to look at the principles. Like book, every mentor, every person you look up to, you don't have to take every single thing that they say, but there's going to be a gem in there and there's going to be consistency throughout all those things. A lot of the consistencies is the same stuff that I've said today. You have to be able to deal with the losses. You have to be prepared for down months. You have to believe in yourself. You have to know that you can do it. You got to lock in, cut out all the negative distractions and know that you can do it. Surround yourself with positive people and surround yourself with people that are more successful than you. Because that's probably the last 2 years I've scaled the most in my business. The last 2 years, the biggest difference between now and the first 4 years is I'm in rooms with multimillionaires. That's the biggest difference. I'm in rooms with multimillionaires and I can see exactly what they're doing and how they go about things in order to build their business. That was the first thing that's when I started hiring employees. I'm in a room with 10 fellow wholesalers from all around the country. All of them have staff except me. I'm like, well, I guess I got to get staff because all of them are making $1 million a year plus.
Yep.
And I'm making whatever, but they have staff and I don't. And I'm scared to hire staff because I'm scared of the responsibility or what if this happens? What if this happens? That's me talking to myself when I just had to get in that room and be around other people that are doing it to help build that confidence and know like, I can do this. All these people are regular people.
Yep.
That's another thing. Millionaires are not these like I don't know, random
I remember when I first started business, that was like the craziest phenomenon was it's like scary at first, but then it's freeing at second when you realize like these people who make a lot of money are not necessarily geniuses. They're not necessarily like these like Elon Musks like you think. And then it's also kind of freeing because you're like, if that's the top, it's actually not as far as I thought.
It's not far at all. It's right there in your face. All you got to do is go through the similar things that they've had to go through. Like, you're going to be scared to hire employees. Yes, you're going to be scared to scale your business up. I was scared to do everything I'm good at now, like every single thing. If I'm not afraid to do something, it's not really worth my time.
Because you know honestly. When it's like fear and excitement are very similar emotions, right?
Yes. Like first time I spoke publicly, like spoke on the stage, I was super nervous and scared. Yeah. But then I did it. I was like, that wasn't that bad for one. And I know I could do it better the next time. So I just kept making sure I talk on stage, talk in public, like make it a habit. So now I can talk in front of 1,000 people if I need to, like that. But I was afraid to do it. The first time I called a seller in my wholesaling business, I was nervous as hell. I got cursed out the first 3 times I called a seller. Like the very first 3 times I got cussed out.
Real question, did you say sorry?
I probably did. I don't remember. Like I
Yeah.
probably did because I know one of the ladies was just like, "You ruining my day" or something like that. So
Well,
I probably
you're ruining
did.
my day. We're not getting a deal done.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but I was new in the game, super green, so I don't know anything. But I remember sitting back, like, all right, do I really want to do this? Yes, I do, because I know if I can get through this, I can get through anything. That's got to be the worst. Like
Yeah.
getting cussed out 3 times in a row, I'm like, it's got to go up from here. Like, and that really tested me on if I wanted to do this. Like, I think that was God's first test to see, like, do you really want to do this? I'm gonna get you cussed out on the first 3 calls. Let's see if you make call 5, 6, 7, and 8. And I did. I ended up getting my first deal, making $3,000 on my first deal, and that was the first one. That was the most money I ever had at one time. Like 2, it let me know. I'm like, bro, all I did was make some phone calls, and I just made $3,000. I was sold from there. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing this.
Yeah, because in your head, you're like, man, how many clients would that have been as a trainer? And you're doing the math, and it's
How many clients do I have to train? How many times do I have to drive up there? How many people are not going to show up? Like, it's just, you realize that you want to make more money faster. That's what drew me to wholesaling as well. You can make fast money. You can make each deal on average 30 to 45 days.
yeah,
So you're going to make 1 to 50,000 in 30 to 45 days on one deal, and you can learn how to do multiple deals at a time. You can't beat that, honestly.
how have you handled not letting it go to your head, so to speak? Because I think that's something too, that because you grew up in Ohio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like for me personally, I don't think there's a lot of, let's say, cousins, high school buddies, or even things like that where I can have a conversation like we're having right now. Like I don't have to censor myself. I don't have to like ask it in a certain way. Has it been hard for you to keep, let's say, people that maybe you have love for but know are not good for you away from you?
Yes and no, because it's a balance. Like I've learned when I first started making what I thought at the time was real money, I definitely, like I'm saying, like don't buy all these fancy cars. I did splurge a lot of my money. I went on like a few trips, bought a whole bunch of clothes, got an apartment downtown. Like I was living it up. But then I learned like this isn't enough money. Like this isn't as much money as I think. Like 30,000 is not as much money as I thought it was because it can just go like
Yeah.
that. And then you have the people around you seeing that you get money. So of course you might see people act a little different here and there, but I've had to learn that you just got to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Like, because especially now, like when I didn't have employees and a son, it was harder for me to keep boundaries because all this money is mine. So yeah, I can go buy this here or lend you this money and do this, do that. Like it's cool. But now that I have responsibilities, I'm like, I can't give you this money because I got to make sure I can still make money.
Yeah.
Like in business, you have to spend money to make money. So if I'm giving you this, that's less that I have to make sure that I'm making money. I have 6 people to take care of.
Yeah.
Like I need to make money at this point. So going back to your question, it's just something that we all have to go through. And like I said, I watch a lot of interviews of successful people. They all say the same thing. Like you're going to have people around you change a little bit. You're going to have people asking you for money all the time. At some point, you got to learn how to say no.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for me, like the time thing's hard too, right? Because you can love who that dude was in college or in high school when you made, friends with them. But if they're at a different point in life and you're like, hey man, I'm actually going to like be with my son. And then all weekend I'm training my staff. Like it's going to come off a different way to them. But to you as Phil, in your heart, like this is the right thing to do.
Yeah. Like you just got to know, you have to go through it at first. Like you got to go lend some money. You got to go have some people do something behind your back. You got to just go through it, honestly, or just listen to people, like listen to me saying it.
Yeah.
And like know that it's going to happen. Like it's far-fetched when you have no money. And that's another thing too, like when you just come from not having any money, like you want to help everybody. Like,
Because you secretly deep down, you want to help yourself. You kind of feel like you're like, these are all, I was like that.
yeah, like I could see that. Yeah. Cause I was like that. Like you were down there with me. Like I could see all those things, but for me to maintain this and to grow it bigger, like I have to invest this money. Like,
Yeah.
I have to. A lot of people around me, I had to just like teach them that like I need this money to make more money. Like me having, yes, I can make 10, 20, $30,000 like that, but I want to get to a point where I have 30,000 coming in passively that I don't have to work for at all.
Yeah.
Like I want to have enough of that where I'm still working to make money, but I have 30, 40,000 coming in passively that I don't have to really work for.
Yeah, the leverage gets different.
Yeah, and more cash, and my business making whatever amount a month, and having different mediums in my business. Like I need money to do all these things. So yeah, you want to ask me for money when I got this, but what about you should wait until I'm up like 10 million to ask. Like then it'll be easier to do, even though I'm probably still gonna have to have the same conversations.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just easier at that point.
Who are some of the either authors or musicians that you've stuck with since being a business owner that you feel like if you didn't have either their books or their music, you wouldn't be where you are?
That's a great question. So my friend Cam, he got me hip to audiobooks because I like books, but reading books, physical books, it just makes me sleepy. Like it really makes me sleepy. And like I'll still do it just for brain exercise, but I have to listen to a book.
Maybe at a cafe to look smart.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm audiobook only. I can't, I mean, Katie's going to hear this and my mom too, but I can't read them. Like I'll 5 pages in, I'm like, that was okay. But if I audiobook, I can do that for 2 hours.
Yeah, I have to listen to a book, and I drive a lot, so I just got to listen to a book. But some of the books that changed my life, one, I didn't read this one until recently, but Rich Dad Poor Dad is a good foundation for people that want to get into business and real estate and just learn what money is and how to move it around. One of the biggest books for me was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Okay.
That book taught me to not care about the little things that go on. Like being able to have a short memory, like that book kind of lays out the pillars for doing that. And not sweating the small stuff. Always, when people ask me about a book and I see that their mindset isn't right and they're just worried about so much, I always recommend that book so it can teach you. And I always give the example, like, what's one thing that you were worried about 2 weeks ago? And then they'll name it. And I'm like, or they can't name it. And I'm like, what is that still going on right now? They'll say no. So what's the point of worrying about it 2 weeks ago that hard when it's just going to go away eventually? So when stuff happens, I just know that that's life. I'm not going to ponder on it and just let this ruin my day or my week or my life, because people will let one situation ruin their entire life. I'm not going to let it keep me down because I know I have other things to do.
And there's too much opportunity around the corner.
Yeah, it's way too much. And there's more books.
What about musicians?
Musicians, I always go in this order. So the first musician that really got me in the mindset that I can do more and be bigger was Kanye West.
Yep.
I remember because my dad was like a hacker almost, like when I was a kid. He can download any song. Like his computer had I swear it had every song ever made on it. So I could just go pick an artist and start listening to it.
Probably 808s on there was the first one.
No, it was
earlier.
It was his first album, College Dropout and Late Registration. It was right after that. So it had to be like 2006 or something, 2007. I know I was in middle school. I was on my dad's computer. I literally just sat there. I'm like, oh, Kanye West. I know he's cool. Let me listen to it. I just sat there at his computer and listened to College Dropout from start to finish. I was like, that was the best album I've ever heard in my life. But that whole album is just talking about like believing in yourself, not doing what everybody else wants you to do and what everybody says you need to do, and believe in yourself and focus on what your dream is and put in the work.
So that might have been the first seed plant.
Yeah, that was a seed for me. It gave me a soundtrack to my life at the time. And then after that, it was J. Cole. J. Cole spoke a lot about believing in yourself. Before every football game, I would listen to the Sideline Story, the song, not the album, but the song is on the album, because in that song, he talks about just being looked at like you on the sideline. When it's my time, it's going to be my time. I always thought like that. I always felt like I was pushed aside, or like it was people when I went to college from my high school would tell me like, yeah, you shouldn't worry about playing. Yeah, you probably won't play until like your junior year. You should just focus on school. I remember that because that's what made me work so hard before my freshman year that I started my freshman year and I never not started ever since the second game of my freshman year. Like, so J. Cole really gave me a foundation to also believe in myself and just because I felt like we were going through the grind at the same time. Like, so it was J. Cole, and then as of recently, ever since I started getting money, was Larry June. Larry June is really, his music really speaks to my life more than anybody at this time, honestly.
What about it?
So Larry June's whole premise is being healthy, getting money, staying to yourself, not stressing about little stuff, being fly. I like to get dressed. I like to wear nice stuff. I like to do nice things, but at the same time, don't overdo it. Like, stay within your means, stay out the way, and just have fun. Like, just be cool. Like, because that's how I feel. Like, I just like being cool. I like chilling. I like getting money, but it's also a big premise on grinding.
Yeah.
Like, grinding, like making investments, like putting your money aside, building your business, expenses. Like, he's one of the only rappers that I listen to today that really talk about the stuff that I go through. So listening to it, and it's got a nice bop to it, of course. And I've just watched him be on the grind. I was literally looking back. I got hip to him in like 2019. I started getting money in like 2020. Like, so, and he's dropped 20 some albums since that time. So I felt like throughout time, it's been like the soundtrack of my life. And still to this day, he's my favorite rapper right now.
So what do you think, because this is something I like to ask everyone before we end the episode, what do you think you're still figuring out? So anyone could come on here who's starting out and be like, oh, this guy's got it all figured out. What are you still working on right now?
What I'm working on now, since we've scaled out the wholesaling aspect, I'm getting more into buying and holding. I was talking to a friend of mine that flips houses, and he was like, man, y'all doing so well on wholesaling, you really don't need to flip, because flipping is really just getting cash. Like, and we get a lot of cash from wholesaling since we scaled it out. So I didn't see the value in rental properties when I first got started. Like, I knew it was valuable, but I didn't see the value in it.
Yeah.
But now that I've been in real estate for so long and I've met so many entrepreneurs and millionaires, I see why you need to buy as many rentals as possible.
Yeah.
Like, all of my wholesaling mentors, not all of them, but some of them, their biggest regret is not buying more properties.
Yeah.
Like, I hear that all the time. Like, if I was your age, I would just hold way more properties.
Every single person I know that's probably above the age of 40 or 50 that's done it right, when I ask them what their regret was, they always say not buying between 2008 and 2010.
Mm-hmm.
They all say the same thing.
Yeah. Like, and I don't want to, like I said, I listen to people that are more wise than me. So hearing that over and over again, I'm like, okay, that's clearly what I need to do. I need to hold more rental property. So, yeah, this has been the first year that we've consistently bought rental properties. So I'm going through the ins and outs, the ups and downs of that to be able to scale that aspect next year. So my advice to newcomers, new business owners, new wholesalers, focus on whatever that is that's going to get you money. Even if you work a nice job, like, focus on what it is that's going to get you money, and then invest that money. Like, invest as much as you can. All rental properties is a long-term investment. And if you're in the real estate game, you can get into those investments with no money. Like, there's ways to get in to buy a rental property with no money. Like, or you put money up and get all your money back. Like, there's ways to do that. So focus on what your main thing is, and then learn how to invest that money, because you're not gonna regret it. Like, the longer you have, the more rental properties and the longer you have them and maintaining them throughout that time, you're gonna thank yourself 10, 20, 30 years down the line when you can just look at them like, well, I own all these properties free and clear. I'm getting all this cash flow every single month. I can just sell one off. If I need $100,000 right now, I can just go sell a house. Like, I got 100 of them. So
that's a different level of freedom.
Yeah, that's a different level of freedom. And that's what I'm going for now. I need 30 to 40K passively. And I know that number's going to go up once I get closer to it. But I need 30 to 40K a month passively. So not active. In our wholesaling business, we do those numbers. But passively, I need 30 to 40K. That's going to take care of everything in the lifestyle I want to live and have multi-millions in equity and assets.
Yeah.
Once you have that, and I'll still have my business, like, then money is not an object at that time. Like, it's not a issue.
Then you might get the fancy car.
Yeah, then I'll get the car. I'm probably gonna get it before that, but but yeah, then I can make that purchase and not feel bad about it. Like, my rule right now is I'm not gonna get a nice car until I have enough rental properties.
Fair.
Like, I'm not, because it's no point. Like, it's no point in doing that. Like, you can have a nice car and then break your pockets every month to buy that Benz to pay that.
For it to depreciate.
Yeah, like I know a car is a depreciating asset, so I need enough passive income to make sense of that to myself, because I got too many people to take care of, and there's other things I'd rather do than have a nice car right now. Yeah. But I do like cars. So.
All right, Phil. Hey, man, I appreciate you coming on.
I appreciate you, Alex.
That was awesome.